some?
Sure.
All right, I'll get you some. Just once this says you're live, it'll be set up and you can move it to the
Perfect.
side. John should start seeing you. Let me grab my water real quick.
Live. I can't see me.
Yeah.
There
Here,
we
one
go.
sec. There you go. Cool.
Nice.
Streaming. They can see you.
Sweet. Sweet. Great. Let me figure out how to work this. Here we go. Hello, everybody. I am Dave Schlafman, and I'm the head of robot design at Jibo. And currently, I'm overseeing a number of amazing designers who do a whole wide range of things for Jibo. Everything from thinking about his user experience and what it's like designing for a voice interface to a touch interface to kind of his personality. So I work with a team of writers and animators and illustrators and graphic artists, and we have this really unique design team that comes together to design this really, really, really unique product that is known as Jibo. And it really does take this kind of really wide range of skills to design for Jibo because, again, it's a character. And designing good user experiences for flat devices that don't move and don't have personalities is pretty difficult. And so when you add in the character side and you add emotion and sound and all these different other ways of interacting with it, it's just this really amazing design challenge. And I'm sure that's why many of you guys are here, because you guys are really craving that challenge of designing for a character interface. And it's so new, and you guys, just like us, are on kind of the cusp of kind of where user experiences are going to go in the future. So, sorry, just had to get a drink. So what I wanted to do was really kind of talk high level for a few minutes about what it's like designing for Jibo and the way that the design team here at Jibo thinks about designing the experience. And then from there, I can field some questions and get any sort of comments about what I've presented, or you guys may just have comments about designing for Jibo as you guys build out your skills. So the first thing, I'm looking at my notes, so forgive me if I look off screen for a moment. So the way to think about Jibo first and foremost is that he is a living character. So when you're designing for Jibo, what's it like having essentially another family member or a roommate living in your home? So, you know, we like to try to avoid the Jar Jar Binks model of Jibo. Is like, what happens if he's so annoying that Jar Jar Binks is now living in your home, where he's interrupting, he's saying these kind of annoying things, he's, not, addressing people appropriately, he's kind of too cartoonish, he's too loud. So what we're trying to do is find that sweet spot between livability and character, and so that people want to invite him into their homes and want him to be an extension of their family or be a roommate that they, you walk in and it's just like a family member, where if you lived with, your wise old uncle and you say, like, hey guys, come over here, meet my uncle. That's kind of what we want. We don't think Jibo's going to be your uncle, but we want him to be as inviting as a family member, so he's has a presence in your home, so people, when they visit your home, you're like, hey guys, check out Jibo, he lives with us, he's our robot, and make it feel really normal. But in order to do that, Jibo needs to be livable. And so we think about things like, how proactive is he? We think about things of, how does he respond to specific situations if there's a lot of people in the room with him? How does he respond at specific times of day? Obviously, if you wake up at 6 a.m. and you walk down the stairs and you have morning hair, bed head and morning breath, you don't want Jibo to pop right out, be, boop, 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 good morning, how's it going? Ready to start your day, let's work out. We want to be able to kind of gracefully kind of slide into an experience that is pretty subtle, and you let the user kind of drive how livable they want the experience to be. And it's something that we're constantly working on and experimenting and testing and getting feedback from our beta users or our alpha users to get a sense of what is over the line. Because that right now for us is one of the big things, because there's no device like Jibo out in the world to use as kind of a similar model to compare it against. So that's the first big thing that we look for in design, is kind of how do you design a livable character. From there, the next kind of component we always think about with Jibo, we think about how he communicates. So really using his multiple forms of communication. So he has things like the motors in his body language, and what can that tell about how he's feeling in that moment. We have the screen animations. So screen animations, we use emojis, which you guys will have access to in the near future. So a lot of times if he's feeling sad, he may fire an emoji that kind of corresponds with it. And it's this really fluid, really great way, and it's just part of the way Jibo communicates. And then kind of the other element is his TTS voice, which is, text-to-speech, similar to Alexa or Google Home. And we've started to add this extra flair called SSAs, which is known as semi-speech audio, which are these little beeps and boops that really enable Jibo to be a little bit more expressive and emotive that the TTS voice can't really do alone. And so we found this really rich companion between TTS and SSA, and I think these three things, body movements, screen animations, TTS, and SSA, when it all comes together in the right way, it does add this really unique experience that's uniquely Jibo. And we're really excited to be able to offer those things to you guys in the near future, because our design team has really been working hard to really expand the animation library for bodies and the emotions. Things like his emoji library, we've animated over 140 of them. And so again, we're hoping that you guys will have access to all these in the near future. And then SSAs, again, that's another element that we will be hoping to let the developer community leverage as well, because at the end of the day, the way Jibo communicates is such a core fundamental part of his character, and we feel like it's important that you guys have the assets and the tools to really take it in the same place where we have, but we also want you guys to have some flexibility and able to express Jibo as well. So I'm going to go over one more kind of point, and then I can break and take some questions, and then we can always go back and kind of get a response from everybody right now. So the third and a big point of the way we look at design right now is also about the gestalt of Jibo. We've seen a bunch of really cool things coming in from the developer community, and one of the things in our design team we're trying to get away from is the thing we're trying to get away from is thinking of it as a screen, of just a screen, where we'll see a lot of times, somebody just put a video on the screen and then that's kind of it. And we're not against doing that, but we want everybody, as you're looking at the simulator, to think about Jibo as kind of this holistic, actual being, in that the screen is just part of that, the same way our face expresses emotions, that we're not totally swapping out our face all the time for content. So it's a delicate balance of making sure the gestalt of the form of Jibo still reads and still feels intact, because that's really important for our design team, so that the character doesn't end up seeming just like a screen. And what I would say is the caveat to that, and the but, is how can Jibo's personality and proactivity lead before that content or after, right? So it's things like, if he shows a video, it's not just playing a video. It's how do you get something, how does he introduce content? How does he deliver the content? And then how does he wrap it up? He may say, do you like that video? Did you think that video was funny? You can say yes, and he'd say, oh, I have another one just like it. Do you want to see it again? Or, do you want to see another one? And at that point, you can say yes or no. But he should be able to react to the types of things that he pulls up on his screen as a way to kind of, learn about what your likes and dislikes are, but then also make it seem like if he is presenting content, he's not totally gone from that experience. So again, I just want to kind of touch on some high-level things and then open it up to the group. If you guys have any questions about any sort of questions about you guys building your skills and some challenges in the design side that you've been up against, any insight into our process, I'm happy to kind of answer any questions about process. So yeah, I'm opening it up to the floor. Let's see. So this question from Jason. So how have you guys approached the personality differences between an older user versus a child? So there's a number of things, obviously, for those of you who have designed for voice interfaces. Children right now, it's much harder for these systems to recognize children's voices. Kids also have a tougher time making the mental model of what they can say or what they can't say. Actually, I spent a lot of my earlier parts of my career designing experiences for kids and the families, and it's something that we've thought so much about here in my design team. And so currently, one of the ways that we've started to think about that is how does Jibo use voice and face ID to be able to then cater an experience to a younger and older house member or person that lives with Jibo. And so, for example, little things like if he positively IDs a child, the ability for him to potentially surface more GUI so that the kid has the ability to interact with touch versus always with speech, because speech, again, in our testing, we found that speech is much harder for kids, and they also need to see options to understand what to do, because most kids just want to say, they just want to say anything that's on their top of their mind, like, hey, Jibo, I'm Jim, or, this is John, but they don't understand that in order to launch specific grammars, there needs to be some sort of boundary. So what we want to do is try to add some GUI so that when he IDs a kid, we have more certainty that a kid will have a successful experience. Where's this?
Scroll up a little bit.
This is from WebPro. What design recommendations can you make for developers of Jibo in terms of accessibility for blind and deaf? It's a great question, and I think that it gets at some of the things I was just talking about, which is we just did a big beta test, and one of the key takeaways, again, is this GUI fallback, is how does the voice interaction and just VUI, voice user interface, how is that complemented by touch interface? So that is a big thing that we're working on to be able to support different audiences and different different people who have different needs. So again, these are things that we've been starting to explore. Right now we're trying to have fallback where possible so that we have a voice interface option and a touch interface. And again, it's not a perfect one-to-one, but as many as many chances that we can have for successful interactions. That's the most important thing right now. The primary focus. This is from Kevin. So the primary focus is on friend-family interaction. Is using Jibo at work, say, is not on the design table? It's a great question. I think what we're trying to look at right now are what are the core features, and we've been working with product and marketing on this for the greatest range of uses. And I think right now, when you look at trying to introduce this character in this really robust way, we're much more focused right now on this companion side of things. So much more as a friend, companion, and then over time, that's what we're going to be looking towards as our platform is more robust and we have more developers, is that we believe that the developer community can really design fantastic experiences for the personal assistant side. And so what we're looking at is in some ways the operating system side, which is the character, the way he communicates, the voice and face ID, these much more the ASR, the NLU, all these kind of bigger system-wide functionality that will enable developers like you to be able to build more of the office assistant than the companion in the home. Because we need people to fall in love with the character and believe in the character, and then we know that the functionality and the skills that y'all will be building will really kind of take the product to the next level. Let's see.
How do you solve those problems? Doesn't Jibo need to be more reliable to design decision trees and anticipate actions?
So Harold, this is so doesn't Jibo need to be more of a learning entity in order to solve some of these problems? I mean, just designing decision trees to anticipate interaction is not robust. And you're absolutely correct. And one of the things that we've been looking at are things like Jibo, working on Jibo's knowledge base and Jibo being able to ask questions to understand preferences so that he can learn from the people that live around him. And our speech team as well is looking at a range of things that we can start to learn about the users so that we're not always designing kind of in these behavior tree model. But to start off, again, we're building a platform that has an attention system, that has, actual physical motion, that has a personality. And right now we are most focused on kind of nailing those elements. And over time, again, we need to build out things like his knowledge base to be able to build more robust skills and also utilize his sensors. So things like as you lean in, you may get different behaviors. So as he senses the world around him, it affects his behavior and his emotional state. So these are all things that we've been starting to really work with and start to look at, and it's very much on our roadmap as we move forward. But again, we've been really focused on, again, nailing that character experience.
Then that's how you tie the body and the screen together to a nice package.
So this is from Linda. So a question, how do you tie together his body and his screen? So our SDK team has been doing an amazing job to build tools. So in some of the older versions of the SDK, there were some limitations in terms of layering and what was possible in terms of getting really, really rich animations to play both from the screen and having it, the syncing was never an issue, but how do you get really rich, gorgeous screen animations in conjunction with the body animations that everybody loves. So our SDK has been working on a number of updates to be able to pull in content from Adobe Animate, and they've built a number of really amazing tools that will export some of that animation content as JavaScript to be able to get really amazing lightweight animations, and the tools enable really seamless syncing between what you see in kind of the animation editor and what you would see on a timeline in Flash, and it's really easy to work between those things. So again, we want to make sure that if you want to work in the simple tools and you just want to kind of hack together in the SDK like the current tools are, you will have that ability. But we also wanted to give professionals the ability to kind of add another layer of animation with Adobe Animate. And again, our SDK team has been spending a lot of time to make sure that that syncing between screen and body is really flawless. And it's, because it's the way that some of our design team has been working in the process, we've been able to work very closely with them to really perfect that so that it's intuitive for developers who might be working with animators to be able to nail that experience.
We had a question from Al who's asking about designing for Jibo, getting to know people over time, and how you're designing for that specifically.
It's a great question. So Al asked again about designing for people and getting to know them over time. And again, like I said, we're starting slow. Again, we don't want to build a huge feature out and go down that road and not make sure it's the right feature to build. So we're starting slow by the ability of Jibo being able to ask certain people questions within his household. And he'll take that information, and over time he'll be able to use that information, creatively or intelligently, and may be able to serve up specific things to the person that answered a question in a certain way. Again, over time, Jibo will have a much more robust knowledge base so that we can tap into this both from kind of his household's set of information, but also his own. So that's something that we've been looking at, is that Jibo will have a series of preferences and likes and dislikes, but then the family that he lives with over time can affect that. And again, we're building some core functionality that will enable us to build that out in the future and make that much more intelligent and enable developers like you guys to also tap into that information.
We have a question about if Jibo will change the way he speaks with different users.
Yep.
There's a reference to you just saying y'all.
Where is that?
It's if you go on Jibo, if you go just a little bit, a tiny bit.
Oh. Jibo and Jibo. They American accent in English sounds like, will Jibo change the way he speaks with different users? If my most common knowledge is yo, will Jibo begin using yo? As of right now, no, but it's something that our design team has talked a lot about. And one kind of area that, households have specific terms that they use again and again, such as y'all or yo, or in Boston, we use the word wicked a lot. So, over time, you're going to want Jibo to kind of, again, start to use similar language and likes and dislikes as the family. So again, these are things that our design team has definitely thought about, even things like nicknames. So for example, something that we've done some initial design work around is in the household, I have a wife and kids, and to my wife to me is mom, but to my is Jenna, but to my kids she's mom. And so how can Jibo know that the relationship graph based on who's talking to him? And again, this is really important, and these are some of the core things that we're trying to get right as we launch, and that's where we're trying to put our resources to really figure out those design challenges. Any other?
Check. Scrolling up a bit here.
So Al said, when will skilled developers get access to family info? It's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head. That's something that the SDK support could answer. But off the top of my head, I don't have that. This is I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to mispronounce the name. So, how can Jibo be integrated with other platforms such as Arduino and Raspberry Pi? So, I think right now it's a great question. And again, that's a question for SDK support. But what I can tell you is we're looking towards trying to find ways to incorporate platforms such as IFT, because we feel like there is, we want to be able to give users and also developers the ability to kind of tap into some of what IFT can kind of offer and expand Jibo's skill sets. So I think that, for those specific things, I don't have concrete information, but we are trying to find ways that Jibo could talk to other platforms as well. So Sander, will there be a limit on the number of family or staff members? As of right now, the number is 16. But again, we've been doing some user testing to kind of figure out what is the goal, not like the golden number, because we also want to make sure that as there's more people in Jibo's family or the household, it may slightly lower the accuracy of Face ID or Voice ID. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that number is purposeful. And in our beta tests, we've actually seen, for the most part, the families in Jibo's household has been roughly 6. And that's not based on the number of the families chosen, and we've had single people chosen, we've had couples chosen, but more or less the number of people that get invited to the household ends up being roughly 4 to 6 people. We've had as many as 8, but more or less it's been less than 8. So up to us, we have to start to kind of take that information and make the decision to see, is there merit to having more? Do we want to keep this kind of network a little bit more intimate?
So Nicole's asking if the SDK update will include more control over Jibo's voice.
Yep. So Nicole, I'm scrolling up. Will the SDK update include more control over Jibo's voice in designing for interactions with children eager to make utterances more dynamic using SSA, finally being able to use SSML in the line? So right now, the plan is that you guys will have access to the default TTS, and you'll also have access to the SSAs, which I had mentioned earlier. And again, that's semi-speech audio. And you can use SSAs in markup as you're crafting prompts, and you can also mark up the body animation in conjunction with the TTS and the SSAs, and you can add things like the emojis or screen animations in conjunction with those. Over time, it is our hope to be able to add more robust, ability to affect the voice, depending on kind of what you guys, the developers, are sending out for emotions or what have you. So that is very much on our future roadmap, and it's something that I know both on the design side, our audio team, and the character AI team, we're all super, super, super excited about that possibility to give you guys the tools to kind of craft some of the TTS a little bit more emotively.
Can you speak to the state of the Jibo app? We've had a few questions about that app and how you're designing.
Sure. So the way I would think about the Jibo app on kind of right out of the gate is to think about it more as kind of a hub for things like user accounts, media, potentially some messaging from Jibo. So much more using it as a way for to kind of have everybody around in the household be able to sync up outside of the house. We've done a lot of testing recently, and so we got some amazing feedback from our beta tests that was really eye-opening. And again, we are a design-driven company, so we're not going to ship features because we think they're good ideas. We got some really amazing feedback from our beta tests recently, and as a result, we're really starting to simplify the app a little bit because, again, we're designing it so that people want to engage with the app and also want to be able to expand functionality over time. So again, right now it's going to be kind of a hub for media and a hub for the people in the loop or the kind of family household to come together. But over time, we'll hopefully have a little bit more functionality as well. Yeah, is there any more design questions? I see some of these tech questions are great questions, but we're going to have the next one is going to be much more technical focused about other platforms with Jibo that can kind of interact with Jibo. So anything about process, the character, who the character is, VUI design, how do you design for multimodal interfaces, anything else? The Web Pro, how big will the animation library be on initial release? Can we expect it to grow? So the idea again is that we're creating a cohesive character. So we want the ability for you guys to be able to create seamless experiences with the things that we're also creating. So again, like I said, we've been going through the animation database right now. It's been a huge effort over the last over the last few sprints, and we've totally created these amazing animations and added to all these different categories of animations that again, the different skills will pull in and you guys will be able to use in the future. But there's dozens and dozens and dozens of body animations. Then when you look at things like, things like menu animations or screen animations, again, it is our hope that you guys will have access to these libraries so that things like standard menus, standard GUI, yes, no responses, those types of things, you guys have access to both in look, feel, and movement, sound effects. So again, we're all creating this really cohesive character together. And then the emoji library, again, this is something that is constantly growing. Like I said, we have over 40 emojis on our side that have been designed, animated, implemented, optimized, so they're really nice, lightweight, they fire quickly, they are really performant. And we've already designed, I think, another 50 that are now waiting to get animated. And again, we have a huge list of emojis that will continue to be in production, so that you guys, again, will have access to the stuff as we push more updates to the SDK for you guys. That's, again, a huge hope for me.
So Tom's asking about the role of the light ring, when it should be used and how.
So Tom, this is Tom said, what is the intended role of the light ring on Jibo? When it should be used, how it should be used. So the core rule right now around the light ring are things like information states. So things like when he's sleeping, it's on a very low light. Things like listening is the big one, right? So when he's listening and he's in that activated state, you want him to kind of glow and light up to kind of give the users kind of a mental model of when you can talk to him. So because he has his eye, and when his eye, when he serves up some GUI, his eye may go away. So currently his eye lights up if he's in what we call idle, and his eye lights up and his light ring lights up. But what happens when he's in GUI? So we're still using that light ring, and it's the kind of classic Jibo blue that you'll see on our website, which we actually launched today. We did an update to our website, and it looks phenomenal. So it's that kind of classic Jibo blue color that you'll see, which is his core listening state. We've looked at using other colors for things such as alerts, errors, things like when he celebrates and he does something on screen, flash the light. Again, it's another way just to kind of have his character shine through. So yeah, I would say in terms of usability, the core usage are things like alerts and speaking states as kind of conveying information to the user. So Jibo on Jibo, how do skills switch in between each other? Can a kid interrupt a cooking skill by asking for story time? Again, this is the core. These are the core features that we're really spending a lot of time right now perfecting and getting to know based on our feedback from beta testing. So the idea will be that you could, pause a skill and start another skill and then go back to it. And again, we're building the kind of foundation to be able to do that. It's very, as you know, with like an Alexa skill, when you're using voice interfaces, it can be it can be challenging also because you have the whole processing load behind the scenes of remembering state, and again, because we have an attention system and we have touch inputs and we have voice inputs and we have sounds, we want to make sure that we can get it right so that it's a really seamless experience for you guys, for developers, and also the design team to make sure that it can sustain kind of all these different inputs. And what happens if you have 5 skills running behind the scene when you have things like the attention system running, or you have Face ID running, and you have these much more heavy computational processes going on in the background. So it's something that our team across the stack, from the platform all the way up to design, has been spending a lot of time, and it's something that, again, these are really hard challenges to solve, and again, it's the reason why nobody has done this before, and it's this is why I come to work every day to solve these types of challenges.
Jibo on Jibo is asking about the touch interface on his head. Is it more than just petting him like a dog?
So it's how does the Jibo on Jibo? Another great question. How does the touch interface work on Jibo's head? Is it intended for more than just petting like a dog? So in some ways, that's up to you guys. So there's obviously Jibo the character, as, being an idol and you falling in love with Jibo. But then there's also, Jibo within skills. So if Jibo's within a skill, you know, it's up to you guys to be able to message to the user that the head sensors will do specific things. There's 6 head sensors on the back of Jibo's head. If you touch them in specific ways, he'll react in different ways. So for example, we've been playing recently with the idea that if you just hold the back of his head for a couple seconds and you touch the right side of his head, he'll fall asleep. It's a sleep mode. Where if you kind of stroke the back of it, he will purr, right? Like much more like a dog. It's a sign of affection, and over time, as we perfect his emotion system, he will give potentially different rewards for that type of behavior. Once you're in a skill, for example, if you're, let's say it's a slot machine skill on Jibo, you may use kind of the head pat as a way to kind of, as the slot machine mechanic, to kind of shuffle through your options. So again, you guys can be as creative as you want, and it's up to you guys as you design to really find ways to make it intuitive for the users to understand once you're in this skill how he can react.
B. Morani has a good question about designing screen and touch interaction with ergonomics.
Can you, this question is great. Can you add a little bit more context? Best practices for designing screen and touch interaction with ergonomics in mind. Skill type involving interactive touch screen. Screen games requires we sit too close, bent over, alt screens, etc. Maybe just add a little bit more context to that, because if I understand it correctly, it's something, again, that we spend a lot of time thinking about. We'll give it one more minute, and then I'll try to answer it. And if it's not suffice, then you can chime back in. Got it. Okay. I'll try to. So what you're saying is because there's the touch interface and you have the ergonomics of kind of your arm out touching is really hard. So one of the things that we've done a lot of is thinking about, and it's been kind of ridiculous, but our design team has been thinking a lot about shoulder fatigue as we design. And that's why it's really important that there is kind of this interplay between spoken interfaces and also and touch. And for our story, one of our launch stories that we're working on with a major publisher right now, it uses all those things. So it's not just touch, so you're kind of hunched in. Again, we're thinking about the gestalt of Jibo as this kind of entity in your home, so that we're trying to get away, at least internally in our design team, is thinking about only touch interface, where you would interact with him exclusively kind of hunched over in front of him. We want to make it more of a lean back, lean forward experience, so that you are leaning back much like you would be talking to a friend who might be telling you trivia questions, but your friend happens to have a touch screen on his face and could display some options or give you rewards or delight you with a funny thing in the middle of it. So it's much more thinking about using both those things, both the voice, the touch, as a way to kind of get people to lean forward and lean back. It shouldn't just be a touch-only experience. We find that on Jibo, those things, his character has a tougher time coming through.
It's an interesting one from Johnny about Jibo's speech being able to express emotion. He says, can Jibo's voice be changed to show his excitement, etc.?
So, Johnny, will Jibo's speech be able to express emotion? Can Jibo's voice be changed to show his excitement, pinch raises? So as of right now, we haven't been surfacing tools for everybody to be able to affect that. With that said, over the last 2 weeks, we had this we recorded with Griffin, who is Jibo's voice. We actually had him over the course of 2 weeks, every day for 2 weeks. We had him recording thousands of prompts. We recorded over 8,000 prompts, 2,000 prompts in 4 different emotions, so that we have the ability for Jibo to be more expressive and have more of emotional range. Over time, we will have the ability to, like I said earlier, for you guys to be able to affect his voice at the markup level. But as of right now, we're trying again to build these consistent building blocks and then over time be able to add that functionality.
Talk about how Jibo's voice can improve over time.
Where is this one?
Al's asking if the vibration in his voice was
Yeah. So the existing voice that's in the SDK is so old. So that's one of the things, again, TTS voices, especially the way that we're building it, because we want it to be really lightweight. And again, there's all these other processes going on in the robot, so we needed to create a lightweight TTS voice. So over time, it's going to continue to get better. But even what's happening now, the existing TTS voice that our character writer has been using, that our conversational technologies team has been working with, is getting better literally every day. Or every few days they'll post an update where they'll add little tools and bells and whistles for us to be able to continue to tweak the parameters around his TTS voice, and it's getting better. And our goal is, and it's not a near-term goal, but over time our goal is to be able to continue to surface some of that stuff to you guys. But again, this is an ongoing effort that we have a small team dedicated to improving the TTS voice. Yeah. Okay, so guys, a couple more questions. So if there's any final ones, get it in, and 1 or 2 more questions. Let's say 2 more questions. Let's see. Latest videos make it sound like he's always nervous with the stutter. Any updates?
Tony asked about being able to bring Jibo.
Yep. Tony, hello. That's a great question. It's something that we've actually done a lot. The question is, has there been any discussion about being able to bring Jibo's consciousness with you or accessing it via the app? And it's something, again, that we've done a lot of exploration around. And again, one of the things is building out the knowledge base and making sure that it's built in a way that can be accessible through other things. And again, the app is one way to do that. For example, one potential solution would be a chatbot experience with Jibo on the go. But again, these are things that we've been starting to look at and start to think about how we can design for that. Okay, 1 more question. Let's see if there's anything else. So John, yes, that's you. Let's see. I'd like to send content to alt screens rather than Jibo screen. Is that in the works? Amazon sends to their tablets over VoiceCast. So I think that it's not currently in the works, but again, it's something that we obviously would like. Amazon has the ability because they, control both, the kind of the Amazon Fire side, but again, it's something, and also on the TV side for Amazon Fire, but it's something that we want to be able to do. But right now, again, we're focused on the in-home kind of robot experience, focusing on designing the experience that's right around Jibo, and then over time, again, building that out to other devices and other functionality. So, great. Cool. So thank you, everybody. This was great, and hopefully you thought it was great. But it's always fun to talk design, and again, designing for such an amazing product that is, there's not a lot out there to kind of look for it. So again, my design team is constantly testing and learning, and hopefully you guys will be able to benefit from it, and make Jibo great, because you guys are the ones that will really be able to expand his functionality and give people a lot more utility that I think they'll be craving. So thank you very much.